Hi, my name is Aislinn and I'm interviewing Charlie Smyth, my community hero. Charlie, I'd like to say thank you for coming and taking time out of your schedule to do this interview as part of my peer leadership programme.
Yeah.
So were you always involved in drama from an early age?
Yes, I was from, I got involved in it in actually when I went to St. Joseph's Primary School up at Catherine Street. And when I went in there first, I got involved in the choir that there was. I suppose I would have been about 7 at the time. And it was my introduction to the town hall.
Yeah.
The first introduction that I had to the town hall, we were entered in the fish, and the conductor was Kathleen Donnelly, who also came from the Ballabot area. And believe it or not, then, well, they won the cup. So we all ran like Billy O from the town hall up along Monaghan Street up to the convent to get telling about the success of winning something. But to me, it was to be in the town hall and seeing the whole set up, and it was a revelation, I have to say. But that was really was the beginning. And then after that, I went to the Abbey Primary, and in the Abbey Primary, I got involved, or they got me involved. They used to have, if the weather was bad, they would have them all in the assembly hall, and they put me on a platform to sing a few songs. So that's what I more or less got involved in the Abbey, in the arts, as you might say, singing, and of course then elocution. They put me in to the fish, and I got a wee bronze medal. So that was let's say, that was the beginning. That it gave me the notion of there's something I wouldn't mind, as I get older, to get involved in.
What inspired you to start your own pantomime? Did you have any role models in particular?
Well, in the 30s, the late 30s, I went to see a pantomime, and it was in the town hall, and it was P.J. McKay, who came from the other end of the Ballabot area, going towards the Dublin Road, who was a director, and he was putting on a pantomime, so I went to see it in the town hall. And this was just magic for me, to see the splendour and to see the way that the reaction of especially children to a pantomime, and it gave me, well, let's say it was the start of it was a feeding end of it, of to get involved in pantomime,
Yeah. You've become very successful and directed over 70 pantomimes. Is there one to you that's most memorable?
Well, every pantomime, I suppose, would step out. If I say that the first pantomime that I was involved in, and it came in the late 1978, I got a phone call from Paddy O'Hagan, who then was the clerk of the council. And I was living out in Glen as such, and I was married out there with my family, and he asked me, would there be any possibility? He said, in Newry, things are like doom and gloom at the minute. Would there be any chance of you putting on something to bring a bit of life and laughter into the town as such? So I said, well, I suppose you have to always give something back to your own town.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll do a pantomime. And I decided then, now the group I had out there, if you remember, it was the Glen Youth Club. And I was maybe putting on variety shows in the Roman time as such, not so much touch in Newry. And I got into Newry anyway with the start the pantomime, and like everything else, the word got round that I was looking for, let's say, a good big course so I could get it, and juniors and tiny tots. And it started off with, you always start off with the Cinderella. Cinderella is let's say, is always the first one in pantomimes that you think of.
Yeah.
And it has a good storyline. So I started it. But the funny thing about it is, and the story about it, you asked me about an event in it. I had a Saturday opening with a Saturday with a matinee.
Yeah.
And usually my matinees would be about 3 o'clock or something like that there. And I was in the town hall on the Saturday morning when we were getting stuff ready. We had the scenery up and the costumes and stuff, they were all getting everything going. When I was on the landing, if you imagine in the town hall, and I looked out and here it was starting to snow.
Oh my God.
Oh, sugar is right. And I said to myself, my God, don't snow all day. But instead of reducing it started to come down well, like snowballs and stuff. And with the result that Walter Love, he was on the radio and he was giving out announcements about the cancellation of pantomimes and shows because of the bad conditions. They had an idea that nobody could do anything. And I said to myself, here am I putting on a matinee. I'll have the cars coming. I know they'll make the effort to get in. And I know that audiences forget about the audience. But I need to get Walter Love. So I got through to him. I knew him anyway and asked him if he would mention instead of one show that wasn't been cancelled was the Newry pantomime, and the side was the first one.
Oh my God.
But we're going ahead with a matinee. And as we did. And truly, as I said, I was playing to an empty house. But the great thing was it was an opportunity for me to see, and a great rehearsal, to see the pantomime and see how it was running.
Yeah.
And I knew then the snow started to ease off, and I knew I was landed. Because once it got out that there was shows on, at least there was a show in Newry. And on I was running it for about 8 or 9 nights that time in the town hall, and I knew that I would get the audience because a pantomime would always draw, especially the youngsters.
Yeah.
Because that is the pantomime, the tiny tots and people like that, to see their faces and the joy that they get out of it, and also their parents and their grandparents also. Down through the years, I said everything like that was well worthwhile.
Yeah.
But that was the beginning.
Yeah, the start of it all. Have you experienced any challenges or setbacks that you've had to overcome?
Well, setbacks, I suppose in a way, that was one setback. You had to face the idea, am I going to cancel this or go ahead? And I had to make the decision there and then. Which shows, like pantomimes, weather was a big aspect. As you knew yourself, you were in the pantomimes and you knew if the weather was bad, there was a possibility of a bad house and a possibility also of a cast, some of them not being able to get in.
Yeah.
So you had to double up. You had to ask somebody to play who had never played a leading role to play a part.
Yeah.
Which was difficult for them, but I never thought of it that way. I always maintained the show must go on.
Yeah.
And then when you saw the delight of the youngsters in the audience and the feedback from them, I mean, it was all well worthwhile.
Yeah,
you know.
definitely. How did you feel to be the chairman of Newry? Was that something you enjoyed, and would you ever do it again?
The chairman of Newry Morn was well, let's say to be even to become a chairman of your local authority, like it's marvelous to be get the opportunity and to be asked number one to become number one and represent the whole community. I have to say that I enjoyed it immensely. It was for a year. And again, with the arts end of it, that was in my being as more than anything else. I'm afraid I wasn't worried about the rates and how they were going up or down. I was always thinking about, I wonder how I'd be able to put it up and on here, or get the council maybe to encourage the youth to get involved in shows, because I felt that here was an opportunity for me to push something from the arts end of it, because I was involved in the plays and the drama at the same time. So it certainly was very enjoyable, and a plus to be involved as Newry number one.
Great achievement. Alongside drama, you also had many other interests such as soccer. Did you ever struggle to balance these two hobbies growing up?
Well, soccer to me, or football as such, I was very fond of sport as such. I played a lot of tennis and I played the football, and I swam a lot at the sandy bottom in the point. But I always felt that by playing football, because my late father, Lord rest him, he was one of the founders of Newry Town in 1918, which was, funny enough, it's still across from the reporting now. If you looked up, you'll see the White Cross Hotel. You'll see that.
Yeah.
There was an hotel there at that time, and that's where the first meeting was held, and Newry Town became a real football club as such. So there was a lot of that in sport in me too, you know.
Yeah. You've helped so many people, including myself, and you also raised £13,000 for charity. What inspired you to do that? Was it something you always wanted to do, and how did it feel?
Well, I felt that if you could give something back, there was a lot of charities, and you knew a lot of people doing a lot of work to help others, because there's people out there and they need it, and especially societies and such who weren't getting a real like they weren't very big in the charity end of it, and they needed a help.
Yeah.
So you were giving them whatever you could as such. And it became part every year of the pantomime to help others, you know.
You've accomplished so much success in your career, but do you have a proudest moment?
I suppose no, I can't say that I'm going to. I enjoyed everything
Proud of it all.
that I was doing as such, and I think that one of them, if I was going to. It's thinking of others. I'd like to be able to show any talent, especially in the drama end of it or the pantomime, if you're able to impart that to others, because I felt it was so important for the like of Newry and on the district as such, that there's somebody out there who am I to be able to say that they are couldn't act or see what they could do. I mean, you've seen them even from tiny tots up. All of a sudden, you'll see something that you couldn't believe that it was in the talent. But sure, if you look around now, the town of Newry and the district is buzzing with plenty of talent, which is great for the whole area, because it'll down to the years, it'll improve, and there'll be jobs out of it. If you look at the now in the cinema setup, and the success of a lot of Irish actors and actresses and people from our district here, who became very well, and you know them, and we're on the stage with them, and now they become household names in the world of cinema and in acting as such.
Yeah. You've inspired so many people and gave them confidence to be on stage. If anyone were to attempt to achieve your level of success, what advice would you give them?
You must have a go. You must have confidence and say, do you know, I would like to do that, and do it.
Yeah.
Because it might only come once in a lifetime. You might have that ability to be able to impart something that is so good for others. But if you have something like that, encourage them, and especially encourage them to get on the stage and try it. You never know until you try it. And you never know until you see talent. If you ask somebody to walk across that stage, as you know yourself,
yeah.
they'll be very nervous, and all of a sudden, maybe a second or third rehearsal, they've changed. Maybe the following year, they've blossomed, and then now they want to become actors or actresses, or want to get involved backstage. And it's good to have something like that in your city or your town, that young people can come, and adults as such also, because there's people out there maybe had nothing and they're retired and only love to be asked to come along and give a hand.
Yeah.
Whether it's painting or doing the lights, but it's part of the showtime, as I say.
Yeah. Finally, I heard your nickname was Cheeky Charlie while playing soccer. How did that come about?
Well, the Cheeky Charlie, for most people who were involved or followed football, will remember the famous, he played on the wing with Charlie Tully. He played with Glasgow Celtic, and he was a household name in the world of soccer. He was a good habit of putting the ball through your legs. Okay, once, but he wanted to do it the second time, and he'd pull your ball back again and do it again. And he was entertaining the crowd. Entertaining. Yeah. Entertaining is the big thing. If you can entertain, whether it's at a party or any particular thing at all, if you were able to do it or impart, it'll give you a lift.
Yeah.
And you said, God, I was able to do that. Or else somebody said, I didn't know you could dance, or you could sing like that. It's wonder you were never in one of the shows, or why did you go into the pantomime or the musicals and things like that? And it's a new life. If you're giving somebody else an opportunity, it's a plus, and you have lived your life by imparting something that you've had.
Charlie, you're coming 90 now in March, and you've lived through so many decades. Would you like to tell us a bit of information about the history of Newry?
Well, I was born in the hungry 30s, and I've often said that was the time that Hitler came to power in the middle 30s. Roosevelt brought in what was known as the New Deal, and as I often said, St Martin Gardens was built in 1928. We were just looking across it here. Up there is Joe Martin Gardens. In the 30s as such, I'm running as a toddler, running about up until the beginning of the war, which was 1939. And what I remember about it at the time, number one, we were told that the war, and that we all had to go to the town hall. Your father and your mother would be taking you and the family as such to get gas masks, and we were fitted with a gas mask. And the funny thing about it, they put the gas mask on you, and they take it off, and they put it into a wee brown box, and it never came out of that because it was never used for anything else, and I'm sure it was in the room space a lifetime. But there was the air siren. The siren was above the town hall itself.
Yeah.
And a big thing was the blackout. Every house in the town, the lights had to be dimmed. So it was an order came out that everything to be no light shown. They were afraid of somebody coming across with the bombers and they're going to bomb Newry, which never happened. But the funny thing about it is that in 41, when the Blitz came in Belfast, I remember we were taken out of our beds and I was supposed to be about 1:30 in the morning, and they thought they were going to bomb because the bombers were coming up from Carlingford Lock. Now the funny thing about Carlingford Lock, one side of Carlingford Lock was in the Republic of Ireland, which was neutral, and they had lights. That didn't make any difference to them because they weren't at war. But over on the other side, from Warren Point all along up, it was darkness, and you had to have everything down. Then you had your ration books, and your ration books were like everyone, man, woman, or child, had a ration book. Those rations were sweets. It was rations, and your ration book. Say you had, if there were 6 in your house, they usually you would divide them into 3 twos. You spread it. Let's say you spread the joy, or you were thinking of, or your father and mother thought it would be better to do it that way because if you couldn't get it here, you could get it maybe there, whatever rations were get it. And the rations were like 2 ounces of butter or 2 ounces of tea, where we used to maybe get a pound of butter. You're getting 2 ounces. Now, visualize if you were fond of something like butter, and you put a slice on a knife and put it across it was nearly the 2 ounces. So it was the rationing. Along with that, you had the beef, and in the butcher's shop you had the ration book. And then there was the petrol, but there was very few people like cars over, and the petrol was scarce, so it made no difference from that particular end. But we were fortunate in here in Newry, because you have to remember we're very near the border. So all you had to do was, if you got on the bar of a bicycle, or somebody would run you up to the border, and there was a shop up there at the customs, and you could get whatever you wanted. That sugar, or when tea was scarce in the south, but sugar or butter or even ham, cooked ham and stuff like that, you could get that there. And I always maintained in Newry that it didn't affect the end of the ration as such. It didn't really affect it, but it did in Belfast, because when the Blitz came and we were we all from this end of the town went towards Altna Bay and across that end of it. The end in Chapel Street, they all went towards Ballyholland side. Out the Belfast Road went towards Belfast. They get up, and as soon as they get away up into the country, for they imagined that they were going to bomb, they will maybe bomb Newry, because they were coming up, that's where the bombers came. And I can always remember seeing that. I saw the bombers, but it made no difference to me. I thought it was like more like a story, or something, a bit of activity.
Yeah.
And here you're out in they were now reported 1 o'clock in the morning, and here you were looking out and you can see a bright sky, and if you're up in the height you can see the flashes down in Belfast coming across, where they were bombing, which was known as the Blitz in Belfast. That for people down there, because there was a lot killed in the Blitz. In point of fact, Belfast, I suppose, it would have been the 3rd most people who were killed in a blitz in numbers, like a London and then Coventry and Belfast, as such, because of the shipyard. And they were hard times, I suppose. But if you were a young fella and you're, well, I was 39, 36, 33, 7, 30. Well, I was about 10 or 14, got up to that. You were going to school and you didn't pass all your marks. You played your marbles and you played football. And then, as time went on, you got involved in what?
Drama.
So, pantomime.
Pantomime, yeah.
Because this good friend of mine, you remember was the famous Sean Chanaman.
Yeah.
And Sean, I got involved with him, and I was in a good lot of his pantomimes. But in drama, again, because his father, who was James Shanavan, who I rated was the man who really started drama to a high level in Newry. I mean, he was a lamplighter, but he was a marvellous man and had the talent again. He had the marvellous hands of showing you the expression of when you were acting.
Yeah.
Showing you how to get it across. Needless to say, didn't know how to show me anything like that. But that particular time, as a lad during the war, 39 to 45, the war years, and then when 45 came, it was over. 46. Then about 46 or 52, then I got involved with New Point in 52 and did shows with them. But I have to say that I had no real fear of I never thought for a minute that I wanted to bomb Newry, but it was there. And I'm sure, and then the rousing, I forgot to mention the rousing of clothes.
Oh.
Your coupons for clothes. If you were going to get a new dress for an occasion, you had to have the coupons to get them. Otherwise, you had to go to the south, to Dublin maybe, to Cleary's or someplace, and smuggle them a suit down or a dress down, whatever it was, or if there was a wedding and you had to get it organised. And then, of course, being near Smyth and Russell running across, cigarettes was rationing. The soldiers had arrived in Newry about the beginning of the war, very early in the war, and they were billeted there in Monaghan Street. The attack, funny enough, from the far side, it was there, they were billeted. And to see them marching was another, it was something that you were learning.
Yeah.
And then later, the Americans, they came to the end of 42, the American soldiers, and it was seeing new uniforms and hearing the American twang. And we were all in the training, the Yanks. But it was as I would say that I suppose you could through the whole phase of the war was an experience.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want it arriving again on your doorstep, and even to see and hear to see the aeroplane and the sound of it, that you recognised it was a different sound.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to interview you and find out more about you and your life. Really appreciate it.
Well, it's a pleasure.